Okay, here is the project on this video. I really enjoyed painting this. This is my first time doing a reflection on a tabletop, and it was a lot of fun. And I've titled this one Glow of Christmas. I cannot wait for you to paint it, so let's get started. We are going to base coat our surface with just straight lamp black. I have an 11 by 14 canvas panel here, and I'm just using a slightly dampened 2-inch foam roller, and this will go very quickly, very fast, easy way to get your base coats on, especially when you're doing a canvas. So I'm going to apply 2 coats on here and make sure I get good coverage. And I'll do my edges as well. Okay, I'm going to get this dry, apply a second coat. Alright, my base coats are dry. So what I'm doing here is marking off with my T-square where I kind of want my design to sit. So I'm just going to mark a line across here. And then what I want to sit on this line is going to be those candles. So the bottoms of the candles, which you can't even see because I've drawn it with pencil, is they're right about here. So I just want to set those candles right on that line. Everything else can kind of come below the line. So I'm going to get my pattern transferred on now. Alright, I've got it where it's like the candles look like they are sitting on that line. This candle doesn't quite look straight here, so I can straighten it out. The tip I want to give you about making circles and making them look, you know, like very nice circles is to get yourself a circle template. I got this at Michael's. Hobby Lobby sells them. You can buy them just about anywhere that they sell art supplies, online or wherever. And then when you have a pattern that has circles, just find the circle in your circle template. And I have 2 sizes. Some of these sizes are repeated on this one, so you know, depending on what size circle you want to do. And so just find the one that fits the pattern and trace it with your tracing paper, with your transfer paper underneath it. So you'll have your pattern like on here, you'll have your tracing paper, or your transfer paper underneath, and then you'll have your circle template on top, and then you'll just trace within that circle template. That is just the easiest way I can tell you to get a good circle on your project. Circles can be, you know, a little bit tricky, so you gotta get them to look like a circle, or it's not quite going to be the look you're going for. So I've got a few extra lines in here I'm going to erase, and I'm just going to leave the line out here for now. I could have left that one because the candle's going to come down about to there. Okay, so we're going to start on our candles here, and we're going to undercoat. I want my candles to be red. So red can be a little bit of a tricky color, especially on a black background. So we are going to undercoat with some gray sky. So wake your brush up. You got to fill the bristles with water. I mean, just don't dip it in the water and think you're going to use it. You have to really let those bristles soak up with water. Lay it on your paper towel, let the excess wick out. Make sure you don't have any water on your ferrule that's going to run down. And then we can just get busy. So we're going to undercoat our candles with gray sky. Go around our ornaments here. And then just come up to this line. You want to keep where each individual thing is. That way it makes it much easier when you go to paint it. You don't have to put back on any lines. So we're going to do this one. And then we're going to add, once this is dry, we'll put a couple of coats of Country Red is the color that I am going for with these candles. So I'm just going to show you the base coating, the undercoating with the gray, but the red, I may just go off camera and do that so we don't have a 4-hour video here. Keep your line straight. Have a little bit of water in your brush or in your paint. That will keep your paint from getting thick and having lines and ridges. So you want to keep it nice. Now this candle comes down. You'll be able to see some of it through this. We're going to have some greenery in here, so you won't see a lot of the candle, but we will see some of it. So, like I said, I could have left that line in there. That probably would have been best to make sure I get it straight. But so you're going to see the candle underneath that ribbon. Okay, our ribbon we are going to base coat. Try a different color than my normal palette. I'm trying to learn to use different colors because I have a select few colors that I really like. They're my go-to colors, so it's hard for me to get out of that box sometime. So I'm going to try this color. I'm going to put it down. If I don't like it, I'm going to switch it. So this is Victorian Blue. We'll see if it will show up on that black. I don't want to have to undercoat it, but I might have to mix a little gray with it. We'll see. So we shall see. Oh no, it's going to go on nicely. So this is going to be our ribbon color. So we'll apply 2 coats of this on here. And again, just follow your pattern lines. Now we're going to come in and add pine needles and stuff in here. So we're just going to put 1 coat on this, because after we get our pine needles we might get, you know, a little carried away here, so we might have to do some touching up, so we might as well just wait to do the 2nd coat. Now I could completely change my mind on that, you know. My process is I really don't know what I'm doing till I put the brush to canvas. So, you know, I have lots of photos, or not photos, but drawings in my sketchbook. So I have ideas of things that I want to do, but still, as far as color and what I will add or take away as I'm painting, I never know. So that's part of the fun of the process, I think. So I'm going to widen this up a little bit down here. Most of that will be covered, so we won't even see. We got holly leaves and pine needles and berries that we're going to be putting in here. At least that's my plan. So that's my current plan. And the good thing about having a black background is that, you know, if you get some stuff out here in the background, you can just paint over it, touch it up with some black paint. So that's, you know, not a big issue. My ornaments, I have not really sure what color I want to paint my ornaments. So I think I'm going to leave the ornaments for now. So we're just going to concentrate on getting the undercoat of gray sky here, our ribbon painted in with blue, and then we will come back and on top of the gray sky, once it dries, we're going to put some country red. So that's how far we're going to go. I'm not going to worry about the ornaments for now, because after I get my candles done, might determine what I want to do here for my ornaments. Alright, I've got all my basic coats on, so let's get started with this. I decided to go ahead and paint my ornaments in. One with moon yellow, one with mistletoe. So let's get going. We're going to start working on the candle. We are going to begin our first shading with cranberry wine. So now I want you to shade with whatever brush you like to use. I like to use these curved flats, and I like to use flat brushes. I rarely use an angle brush. So I'm looking for a large. So there's 3 sizes of curved flats, but I only have 2 left on my website. So the 3 that I used to sell was the 12, the 10, and the 6. The 12 is no longer. It's done for. But I do still have some 10s and 6s. I still have a little bit left. So, you know, could be when this video comes out there's none left. So right now, while I'm recording this video, I have some. So I am going to use this brush, and I'm going to spritz my palette here with some water. I like to have water on my palette. It's what I use when I am floating. Let me get this in a camera shot so you can see the water spots. There we go. So there's all different sizes of water spots on there, and the more that you spray in one area, the bigger the water drops will get. So I like to pick up clean water when I'm floating, because if you use the dirty water out of your basin, you will create a shadow in your float, and you want to have that nice clean float on there. So let me wake my brush up like I showed you earlier. Fill the bristles with water. Lay it on your paper towel, get the excess water out. Okay, and so when I load, this is how I load for floating, and you load any way that you feel comfortable loading. If you have learned a specific way or just developed a way that works for you, then that is how I want you to load your brush. Don't feel like you have to do it like me, but over the years, this is what I developed that worked best for me. So I pick up a little bit and I go back and forth like this, because you need the paint on both sides. And I want to work it up into the bristles a little bit. I've got a little bit too much water on my brush, so I'm just going to go touch the water edge to the paper towel. Just briefly touched it there to help it wick out some of the water. Now, this is cranberry wine. Cranberry wine's a little on the transparent side, so we probably won't see a whole lot of this to begin with. Of course, on country red, it's more of an orangey red, so it may show up a little bit better on this. So we're going to go around our ornaments here. This is a V right here. So you want to, when you come to a V like this, you want to push it down in there and then round that V out, fill it kind of in. So that's just the first little shading there. We'll come back and do more. That's just where we're going to go. Now I drew these lines in here just to show you kind of where we're going to be going with this design. But I'm going to be painting over this so it will erase those lines. So when you transfer any detail lines, just transfer in for the ribbon and the candles. This other stuff we'll add later. But I just wanted to give you an idea of the thought process in my head that was taking me in that direction. Okay, we'll go around this ribbon on this side. Try and stay off of the ribbon. Lay your brush flat when you can. Soft pressure. I need some more water. You need to be able to move your paint a little bit, so you've got to have a little bit of water in there. So don't not put water in your brush. Okay, we're going to come up here, paint along this edge here on both of the candles. You don't want any hard lines, so if you're getting hard lines, you don't have your paint blended enough on your brush and probably don't have enough water in your brush. You can't just go pick up paint on the tip and come and paint, because you're not going to have the right, it's not going to paint right at all. It's just going to leave a line. So, alright, so I'm going to grab my mop brush. And I'm going to mop that just a little bit, which will remove a little bit of that, and then just kind of soften it out there. Got a little heavy-handed there. Anytime I'm away from the shot here, I am loading. And when I pick up water, I work it into my brush just like I work in the paint. Okay, we want to go around this outside edge here. Brush flat. I'm going to walk it in a little bit, and that's going to carry that paint over a little bit. You will not be able to walk in your paint if you do not have water on your brush, because this edge right here lays down water while this edge is laying down paint. So when you walk something over, you're bringing the paint over into the water edge, which is it's carrying the paint over. Okay, it's just creating a nice soft gradation of color, but it's making a wider area of color. So we'll go over here and do the outside edge of this one. Now this is a much longer candle, so if you don't feel like you can carry water that far, or carry the paint and the water that far, just get a damp brush. Ooh, that's a lot of water. And just place a little bit of water along this edge. Okay? And then I'm going to load a little bit extra paint in my brush here. And I'm kind of up on the toe here because that's a tight little area and I don't want to lay my brush flat in there and get it all over my blue. So as I get out of that, I'm going to lay my brush flat. Soft pressure. And just let the paint flow. I'm going to pick up a little bit more paint. I've got plenty of water right there, time to work it. So I'm just going to walk it over into the candle a little bit. Find my mop brush. And I'm just going to gently mop in the water area over here. If you go into the paint, you're going to remove it. That's what I did over here. I wanted to remove a little bit of the paint. So now when I use my mop brush, I use it dry. And you see now right here it's got paint in it. So what you want to do to clean it is go to a damp place on your paper towel where there's no paint, preferably. No wet paint. If it's dry, it's not an issue. And then you go to a dry place and you dry it off. So now we've got the paint out of our brush. We won't transfer any paint somewhere else on our project. Alright, I paint a little bit too far on my brush, so I'm going to wash it out and reload it. Get the water off my ferrule. Work it in the brush. Alright, I'm going to go down here along this bottom edge. This will be mostly dark in here. Of course, once we get our greenery in here, we won't see that anyway. But, you know, there might be some peeking through, so we got to take care and make sure it's... Okay, I'm going to refloat this edge. There's a V, so I'm going to pull it out and round it. There's a V here. I'm going to pull it out and round it. And gently mop in the water area. I'm going to go back up here. This needs to be a little bit wider float. And do this one. Remember, if you get anything into your background, it's black, so we can touch it up. No problem. Okay, this needs to be a little bit darker over here. We are going to darken this by adding some black to this color, but we want to make sure we've got this color on here just the way we want to have it before we add that black into the mix. I try to clean my mop brush off every time I use it so that I'm not carrying paint where I don't want it. Okay, I'm going to go around this a little bit more, around that. This still looks like it needs more. Okay, that's looking pretty good right there. We need to let that dry. That's probably getting pretty close to dry there, so I'm going to add some black on my palette here. Now you're just going to brush mix. Don't try to mix a bunch up, and don't stress out about if your mix is not exactly the same color. So you're going to dip into, get the water off there, your cranberry wine. Too much water on my brush there. See how that's just all watery? Too much water. Okay, I'm going to go back into the cranberry wine. I'm going to go right back here because I took my brush to my paper towel and I removed all the water out of it when I laid it on the paper towel. So now it has it's just damp. So I'm going to go right back here so my brush can have water in it. It just won't have too much water in it now. So we want a teeny tiny little bit of black. So I just barely dipped into that black. Just teeny tiny little black on there. Okay, I'm going to touch it over here because I'm not really sure how much is on there, and go mix it in with my cranberry wine. And that's a nice color. I like that. Every time I pick up black, I touch over there just to get the extra that's on the tip off of my brush, so I won't, you know, make it darker than what I want. Alright, so we're just going to go back over. A little bit too much paint on the tip there, so I wiped it off. We're just going to go back over all the places where we put that cranberry wine. Try to stay off of my yellow there. Do this edge here. And walk it over a little bit. And then we're going to mop all of that. Kind of soften it out. Okay, I'm going to pick up some water, some more cranberry wine, a little bit of black, mix it up. That's one of those V areas. So you want to bring that paint, round it around that V. Here as well. I'm going to go ahead and go up this edge. You need to let your floats dry. So don't try to cut through them. Goodness. Let's put a little bit up here. Alright, every place, every single place. So down here. Go along there, then we'll come back and do the bottom edge. We're going to go in here. We're just going to kind of keep this in the center right here. Okay, in the center. Kind of gives it that little bit of a well there. I'll pull that out because that's a little bit of a hard line. Take my water edge. And soften that. Okay, this isn't quite dry down here. Get some along the bottom down here. I wasn't quite dry up there, so I kind of stayed up on the little tippy toe there of my brush. Okay, that's looking pretty good for the shading there. We'll probably come back and deepen a little bit of that here later. I want to create a little bit of a where the wick of the goes down into it with those same colors there. So let me just draw a line in here so you kind of know what I'm talking about. So where it kind of is down in there will be a little bit darker. So I'm going to take that cranberry wine and black mix, and I have to apologize for my chair. It needs oiled so badly, and I noticed in the last few videos that it really makes a lot of noise. So let me just apologize, because that noise is just awful. So that's kind of where the wick is coming out. Okay. So that kind of shows me that I need to bring my shading just a wee bit up. In here. About covered up my little wick place. Of course, that's got kind of a deep well. We probably wouldn't even see the wick, so I'm just going to erase that. I mean, see the place where the wick goes in, because that that wick is going to be down in here, down in the well. We won't even see it. Okay, now on some candles that I did previously, I did some melted wax. So I'm going to, this will be on your pattern, so when you shade you'll just go around it. So I'm going to add some melting wax on here. That's a lot of melting wax. Maybe I won't add quite that much. Let's just give it some little melting. See, this is my creative process. You get to experience it. Aren't you the lucky ones? So, I'm thinking that I want little bits over here. And then on this one we'll do yeah, not liking this so much. Alright, trying to decide what I like and what I don't like here. Okay, I've drawn some on like I kind of like. Now, I am going to put in my instructions that the candle drips are optional. If you don't want them on your candle, then you do not have to add them onto your candle. Just paint your candle in without adding them in. So, transfer them on or not, up to you. So we will first shade with our cranberry wine around our drippies. And of course the cranberry wine, you won't see a whole lot. This will be a fairly tight float. You can kind of stay up on the tip of your brush for this. And we'll deepen it with our mix when we get done with this. So I'm really staying up. I have the brush almost straight up and down so that I'm not laying down a wide, thick line. And I've moved down to a size 10 curved flat, so you could go down to a smaller angle brush if you need to. Okay, that got a little bit wide. So I'm going to do that. We're up on the tip there. Okay, kind of defining our drips now. So we want to make sure that's dry, then we're going to repeat it. Alright, got my cranberry wine with a tiny bit of lamp black in here. I'm really staying up on the tippy here. We're going to erase our graphite lines after we get this done. And add some highlights, and then we may come in and redo just on the lower parts of these, which I think I'll go ahead and do that. We're going to take the mix of cranberry wine and lamp black, here. And create a little bit darker shadow. That's going to help make that wax appear thicker. Ooh, too much black. I'm just mixing up a little bit more and I got way too much black. I mean, it takes a teeny tiny little bitty drop of that black. Put a little bit of this in where it might be a deeper deeper shadow on the wax. Okay, maybe right here might have a little bit deeper shadow, and there's a little bit too much black there. Grab a little bit of cranberry wine here. Take that down. Okay. So let's erase our graphite lines here. See if we can tell where our drips are. We can add our highlights in. And I tell you what, on these places that are really close to the edge, I'm going to take my country red, and I'm going to just kind of build that up a little bit taller. I need my gray sky under there, I think. I think this one here I will make a little bit fatter. So this will all be in your pattern. You know, you're just seeing my design process here. I mixed a little bit of gray in with that so I could get it opaque. And so now I'll just come in and add some red. And I'll probably have to add a couple of coats of the red on here. Okay, that makes them look a little fatter and more raised. And I'm going to cover up my line here so this wax will look a little bit more built up here. Okay, so just building up. This is only if you're going to add these drips onto your project. I mean, you don't have to add them on. So some people don't like their candles to be drippy. Okay, that's looking pretty good. We're going to start adding some highlights on our candle and our drips. We're going to start with some Cad Red. Let's see if this is going to show up enough. It might not show up. Okay, so this candle, the edge of it over here is highlighted. Okay. The top edge here has got some highlight. Back here. So, back here. Keeping it mostly in the middle back there. Right here. And you can walk it down just a little bit. And then we're going to have some highlight on our, we're going to dry brush some highlights in the center here. Or do a back-to-back float. I like to do back-to-back floats, but I think I'll just dry brush on this one. We want to highlight on the top of our wax. On our drippy drips, I guess I should say. And I probably should go to a smaller brush here, but pick me up a little bit of water. My brush is getting a little bit dry. So we're coming from inside. So we're taking a little bit of that paint over down in there. And then we are bringing it down. Our waxy area here. Okay, while that's drying, we're going to have to be brightening that up. Let's drag a little bit of this color. I'm just going to get a dry, flat brush. Okay, and I think I'll get one that's an older one that I don't care if I damage in any way. And we are going to load with our Cad Red. And then find a dry paper towel. And we're going to wipe off some of the paint. Okay, now with very soft back and forth, up and down pressure, we are going to brush this into the center of our candle. You're not going to see it a whole lot at first, so don't worry about it. This is decorative painting, is layering of colors. That's how you get your depth. So we're going to dry brush this in the middle. I'm going to repeat that on both of them. Some red on my yellow ornament there, my gold ornament. So I'm going to take my white eraser. I dipped it into some clean water, and I'm going to go right here and erase that red off of my yellow. I don't want to go too hard on a canvas because it will go all the way down to the bare canvas. Okay, you really can't see a whole lot of that, but it's on there. Okay, I'm going to lay this aside for just a second. We're going to use it again. We're going to pick up some Tangelo orange as soon as I shake it up good. And we're going to brighten our highlights with this Tangelo orange. So we will get our brush and brighten our highlights on here. Pull some of that color on there. And then we'll drag some of this along our center of our candles. Let's put some along the back here. Back of this one. Along the front here, edge here. Bring it down a little bit. And along this edge here. And this outer edge here. Now we'll dry brush some of this. I'm just going to use that same dirty brush. I'll pick it up a couple times, kind of help remove some of that red off there just a little bit. Now it's soft. Pressure. Back and forth. Make more paint. Starting to see it more now. Okay, that's looking pretty good on our candle. I'm going to wash out my dry brush now. The one that I used dry. I just used an old brush. So, you know, because canvases are a little rough. Okay, I think I will add one more bright highlight on here. Throwing my paint around. I don't have any white out here. Let me get some white. I'm going to get my flat brush when I find it. There it is. Get my mop brush off real quick. I'm going to get just a tiny little bit of white. And I'm going to brighten. the minute, small amount on the edge of this brush. I mean, it's such a small amount, you'd think I didn't have any at all. A little bit of a hard line there, so soften that out. I'm almost dry brushing this. I mean, I have hardly any water or paint in my brush here. A little bit back here. Okay, I'm just going to use this same brush. I'm just going to get the majority of the water out of it. Pick some paint up on some white paint. I'm going to drag a little bit of this down the center. Maybe scooch it over a little bit. Try to keep it soft. Don't want any hardness in there. Okay, our candles are looking pretty good here, and I'm going to do something on here that I love to do on my candles. So I think they look very pretty, but I want to make them pop. So I have some cherry red right here, and I am mixing water to my red. I want about 90% water and 95% water, 5% paint. So I really just want a water that is tinted. So I'm going to wipe, I wiped my brush off to get all the water out of it, and I'm going to load it up right there. Touch my paper towel, and then I'm just going to glaze this or wash this over the entire candle. And I should have deepened that center a little bit before I did this. So if you need to make your center a little bit darker, then go ahead and do that first. So this is just a little, I just love to do this to my candles. I like to do it to my apples. I like to do it to a lot of things and really make them pop. Bring that color just, it just catches your eye. And cherry red is the perfect color to do that with. And it doesn't take away from our highlights or anything. It did take our highlight down in the center there a little bit. So I'm just going to mop through that, kind of remove it in the center. Get our little highlight back in there. And if you feel like it took it down too much, just come back in and add the highlight back in. I feel like it took it down just a tiny bit too much. So just make sure your cherry red is dry before you do this. Because you'll just be making pink then. And we're going to work on our flame and our wick next. Let me see if I can get some of this red off of my my yellow ornament here. Just be gentle. I do sell these erasers on my website. They are wonderful for removing paint where you don't want it. But your paint can't be cured. It has to be pretty fresh paint, uncured, and you know, just dampen it with clean water and go from there. Just stop my wheel from spinning here for a second. Okay, let's work on the candle, the wick, and so we're going to paint the wick part in with some black. And we'll get a little liner brush here. Whatever kind of liner brush you like to use. I like to use the 10-0 liner brushes. They've got longer bristles, but if you prefer one that has shorter bristles, then just go with that. Okay, pull your wick. Maybe not so fat of a wick here. Let that dry, I'll go over to this other one. That wick is coming from way down in here. Up into my flamage, and it needs to go all the way. All the way down in there. Now we're not really going to see it up here because our background is black. So we won't see that in there, but I am going to deepen my shading inside here with my cranberry wine and black mixture. Ain't too far on my brush, clean it off. The paint's drying up. I should get fresh paint. You know, us painters, it takes too much time to open a bottle and squeeze out a little bit more. We just want to keep going. Okay, right through here. Let's deepen this well just a little bit. There we go. Maybe just a tiny bit more black in there. Okay, that looks much better. Okay, we're going to work on our flame now. And I have to get a clean piece of palette paper here. I'm getting all used up on my palette here. See if I can find a spot. Okay, let's start with, we want bright colors down here, but I want it to be a little bit transparent, so I'm trying to think how the colors go on a flame. They get lighter as they go to the top, so our oranges and reds will be at the bottom. So trying to think which red I want to start with. I know that my cherry red is opaque or transparent. So it probably isn't going to give me the color that I want here. I mean, I want my flame to be a little bit transparent. I want it to be an opaque flame. So we're going to start with some cherry red. I'm just going to wipe my brush off and go into some Tangelo orange. And I'm just going to kind of mix that in there, pull it up. Need a little bit more red back in there. Down here. Let me try this real quick so I can layer my orange in there a little bit better. This is Tangelo orange. And then we'll do some cad yellow at the very top and some white. Next. And then we'll do a little bit of transparent white. So that means you'll work it into your brush with some water just a little bit so it can kind of fade back in there. I want to erase my graphite lines because they're a little distracting. Okay, so you see how that flame looks almost like you can see through it? So that looks pretty cool, I think. I'm going to glaze it with a little bit of cherry red, just down here. I don't want to cover up my yellow or my white. So the orange and the red that I put on there, I'll just glaze those over. So now we can pull a little bit of that black up into our flame. You'll be able to see it now. And we'll add a little bit of a highlight on our wick with some white. And now we want to add a little glow on the candle from the flame. So I'm going to do that with some yellow. So we're going to get a little bit of a glow here. Maybe we'll have some glow out here on this. And this. And probably going to glow back here a little bit. And on this very edge. Okay, just on the edge. This is cad yellow, so just on the edge right there. Back here, of course. Kind of bring that glow in. This way we'll have the glow kind of, might be down a little bit too far on that one. Put it on that edge. And this might have a little bit of glow. Okay, and then I'm just going to dirty brush right into some white. And we'll just brighten that glow up just a tiny little bit. Yeah, I'm just barely skimming it on there. Okay, I'm going to fix my highlight down the center because I think it is not bright enough for me. So I'm going to use a wet brush and do a little bit of a back-to-back float. And a little bit over here. Mop brush here. Okay. The end of the drips need to be a little bit brighter. Take some Tangelo orange with a little bit of white. Maybe not so much Tangelo orange, maybe mostly just white. Let's have a little bit of color in it though, because the white will just be too stark by itself. Well, maybe it won't, because every other color is not going to appeal to me. I have to glaze back over these. Alright, a little glaze of cherry red. Just a scooch. Make sure your white's dry, you're just going to turn it pink. Alright, I'm going to leave those right where they're at for now because I still feel like they're not quite where I want them to be. So, I think I'll just move on to something else and see if I can come back to these. Put some smoke coming off of the flames later. Haven't decided yet. Alright, I'm going to wide angle out so you can see the candles. They look really good. Alright, let's move on to the ribbon now. So let me zoom you back in. We're going to start adding our shading on our ribbon. So I want to shade with ultramarine blue And I'll put a little bit of black on my palette because I will be probably deepening with that black. Get my water. I've got a new piece of palette paper, so I need to get some water on it. I like to do that first thing before I even start painting on a new palette, because then when I need water, it's right there. I don't have to be searching for it. Okay. So we need to do all of our turned places. Remember, that's a V. You need to kind of walk it out. Got just a touch too much water on my brush here. So this one here goes up in there. And then this is on top. We'll highlight that edge right there so you'll see it a little bit better. Shade every place that is turned and where the ribbon is next to something or on top of another piece of ribbon. So that's all the places that you will do first, are those places, the turned places. Now this piece of ribbon right here, in case you're confused by it, is kind of lifted up, so you can just see a little bit of that edge of the ribbon underneath there. So we're going to shade right here. Here. And this will be shaded under here. We'll just do a little bit on this back edge back here. Okay, we do have to come back and repeat all of this, so not to worry. I'll be darkening. So that one there, and we'll darken it here. This will probably end up being covered up by greenery or something here, but we'll go ahead and I'm going to go around that piece of holly leaf because I know it's going to be there. Up here. This is going to be, we won't see this edge either probably by the time we get all the greenery on it. Put a little bit there. And then right here will be dark. It'll be dark back here along this edge. Alright, I'm going to create an edge on here that is dark. So this ribbon comes around this way. So I'm going to make the dark edge back here. That's probably a little bit too much. Grab my mop brush. I'm going to pull that out. Soften that. And do this edge here. And down here, we'll do this. This will all be dark down here. Inside here. So back here, I'll bring this around. And that's quite a bit of paint there, so mop brush, smooth it out. This one here, we'll get it on the inside here. And we'll put a little bit down through here. We probably won't end up seeing a lot of this because we'll have greenery going on. And we'll put a little bit down through here. That's going to be a high place. I can do it on both sides here. And actually just put it across the whole thing right there. And one more place I want to put this color. Is through here. Okay, so that's kind of brought our shadows, our shading on our ribbon into play here. Put a little bit along this edge here. And with this, you'll probably just kind of want to look at the pictures themselves to see where the darker areas of the ribbon is. It will be very difficult for me to put exactly where on the instructions. So I will, on my instruction, it will say on the turned areas, which are these places where the ribbon is turned, where it's next to something, where a piece of the ribbon is on top of another ribbon, and where the side that you decide is more going to be on the shadow edge. The other side we will highlight. So when we put the highlight on there, that will really, you know, bring all that into light. Okay, let's add our highlight on here. It's going to be a fun color. And then we'll come back. Well, I think before we do that, let's deepen our shading in a few places. So we're going to take that blue, and like we did with the red, oh my goodness, I just got paint all over me. Like we did with the red, when we shaded here, we added just a drop of that black in there. Oh my, I mean, that bottle just squirted paint everywhere. Alright. All over my paintbrush and everything. Okay. A little bit of that ultramarine blue with a little dot of black. Just darken up that blue. I mean, it's going to make it very close to a navy blue. So we want to go in here and darken up some of our, especially our turned places. So we're just going to repeat our shading with this color. Every place you did it before. Oop, a little bit too much black there. Let me add a little blue to that. And do a little bit on this edge, a little bit on this edge, here, and here. You won't do as much as you did before. So go here. All your shading places, and this should go fairly quickly because you've already created them. You know where they're at. Okay, so that was pretty quick. We're going to add our highlights now, and we're going to add turquoise blue for our highlight. Not even like this color, but I wanted to give it a try because I wanted to do something a little bit different. So, turquoise blue. Go into highlight. All of our highlight sides or areas. A little bit of this highlight right there. Here. That's really a low place. It probably should be shaded, not highlighted, so. But I am the creative artist here. I mean, you know, it's my creation, so I have a creative license. So if you are freaking out because that is a low spot and it should be shaded, then you go right ahead and shade it. I have no problem with that whatsoever. Painting should make you happy, not frustrated. So if that little bit is keeping you frustrated, you're not even going to notice it when we're all done, so. I love painting ribbon. Ribbon and lettering, two of my favorite things to paint. Need more water. Work it into my brush with some paint. Can't just pick up your water and go. You've got to work it in just like you would your paint. I know I repeat myself a lot on my videos, but I want to make sure you all learn. And I never know if there's somebody who's never watched one of my videos. They're watching it for the first time. So, you know, it's just information for those who need it. If you already know it, then just ignore me. Okay, that looks pretty good. I like that turquoise blue on there. That's very pretty. So we're going to repeat that. Put a little bit more on this edge here. It needs more. So let's repeat all of our highlights. We're going to go with just the turquoise blue again, and then I think I'm going to see about adding some white in here. What a fun color to put in a Christmas project. I am so loving this. can paint this design on just about anything. What a pretty design to paint to give as a Christmas gift. I mean, something somebody would just love to put out for their Christmas decorations every year. Finish up over here with more water. Take a look at it and see what we think. Okay, it's looking really good. I'm going to have to erase some graphite lines here. You know, if you haven't painted over them, you can erase them. They'll come right off. Got some paint on that one, so it's not coming off. Alright, brush your eraser away from your paint. Okay, now we're going to add a fun highlight on my ribbon. I love to add it on all of my ribbon, and I will probably put some glamour dust on this ribbon because I'm all about the bling at Christmas. I just love it. So let's add our back-to-back float highlight on our ribbon next. Alright, when I do my back-to-back floats, I like to use a flat brush. Very good flat brush. So we're going to load for a float, but it's going to be a washy float. So you're going to have water in your brush, so I dipped it in the water. You can see I've got a lot of water on the brush there. Okay, I'm going to just barely touch it to my paper towel and let some of it wick out. So you see there's not as much, but there's still enough that it's leaving water on my finger. Dip into my white paint and work it into my brush. Got lots of water. Okay, I'm going to go touch it to a paper towel. Let some of the water wick out, not too much. Okay, and then I'm going to go in here on my ribbon and do a back-to-back float. So I do it down one side, flip the brush over, and go down right beside it. You can see, maybe you can see, it's pretty wet. So I am going to mop the whole thing and kind of soften that. Need a damp brush here because I'm going to be getting out of line quite a bit here. Okay, go to the next place. I should have enough water in my brush. So I'm walking it over, flipping the brush around, the white next to the white. I don't like to go over it, but you can go over it. I like to get right up next to it. You don't want a gap in between, for sure. And then I gently mop it. Okay, I'm going to put one here. I'm going to pick up a little bit more water on my brush. Work it in. Let's do one here. Wait till you zoom out. You see this. It's going to be awesome. Okay, so this one is a high place here, so we're going to go along this high place. Try and clean up that edge there. I'll put a little bit of this along there. Remember, if you get out of line, like I just did there, don't worry about it. It's black background. You can touch that up. I will probably come back and repeat these because they're not as bright as I would like them to be. They probably look bright to you because we're close in, but I have a lot of water in my brush, so this white paint is really going to fade back in there. And again, if you have watched any of my videos, I did ribbon. It is going around something. And I use this technique, this back-to-back float technique. I rarely do ribbon. You have to have water. You cannot do this like I'm doing it unless you have water, because you will just leave hard, stark lines. So you've got to be a little looser. Add that water in there. It's going to create like a wash of color because you've got so much water in your brush. So it will help it soften and fade back down in there. And then when we come to repeat it, it will really pop. So here's that place where a low place, which normally would not be highlighted. It would be in the shadow. But I am playing my own rules here. Put it along the edge on here. Okay, let me wide angle out before I repeat all of the highlights. Okay, you see how it's starting to make that ribbon just shine like it's silk ribbon? So we're going to repeat all of that. Load your brush with some water from your palette, clean water. Side load some white paint. And then do it again. But this time you just do a quick one in the center. You don't have to walk it out or anything. So it will go much faster. Picking up paint and water. Alright, over here on this one. I never do this without a mop brush. Ever. I just don't, if I try it without a mop brush, I just don't get the same effect. A little bit of water in my brush. Work it in. Walk that one out a little bit more. finish up along this edge. Okay. I still think it needs to be, a couple of them needs to be a little bit brighter. Like this one. So, you know, if you have to go back over the third time, probably like me, you had too much water. No space. But I would much rather do it a third time than have it just be so bright that it just like, your eye just goes to it instead of thinking, oh, that is shiny ribbon. I love that ribbon. I want to feel that ribbon. It's so shiny. That's the kind of thing that you want to do. You want to draw people in to make them think it's real. Make them want to touch it. Oh, let me give a little bit of a highlight up here along this edge. Just a scooch. Scooch, scooch. Okay. Now I'm going to add some speckled on here. And I want to put this on before we do anything else because a lot of the ribbon on this side over here will get greenery and stuff on it. So, Glamour Dust Ice Crystal, my favorite Glamour Dust ever. Let me get around the brush. Well, no, I'll get a flat one. And I'm going to put 2, maybe 3 coats of Glamour Dust on our ribbon. I really want it to sparkle. So you really want to stay within your ribbon. Get all the way up to the edge though, because if you don't, you'll be able to tell. So tilt it up, and if you've missed an edge, then just go get right up to it. I cannot paint any Christmas themed project without Glamour Dust. It's just impossible. I just love the bling. And we might put some on our ornaments too. I haven't ruled that out yet. I haven't ruled it out. I'm thinking I might make my ornaments more metallic looking. That's kind of my thought plan right there. So let me finish this ribbon up. I'll go off camera and do the other side and put my other coats on when it dries. If you get out past your ribbon, you can touch up your black ground and cover up that glitter. Okay, so starting to see a little bit of sparkle in there. Oh my gosh, love it, love it, love it. Alright, I'm going to go off camera and finish the glitter on this one and let this dry and put another couple of coats on there probably, because I like at least 3 coats on mine. Okay, I've got my second coat drying on my ribbon, but I decided to add a little pearlizing medium. It's just straight from the bottle. You can mix it with paint to make your paints pearly, but I am just applying it straight from the bottle. I've got just a little bit on my brush here, and I am just kind of scratching it on with the edge of my brush. I'm using a filbert brush because I don't want it you know, thick on here. I thought a little bit of shine on this. Kind of see it on there. I'm mixing some water in it so it will be thin and not go on really thick. Now this is an option. Not anything that you have to do. So don't feel like you have to do this. I just like to try new things. This probably won't show up well in photos anyway. There we go. Give a little bit of a sparkle to our flames, and I think I will wash over the bottom of that flame one more time with some cherry red. Just a little wash of it. There we go. Looks good. Ooh, see the sparkle in my ribbon? That's only 2 coats. Oh my gosh. It's gorgeous. Alright. We're getting ready to move on here. We're going to work on the green ornament next. I thought about going over here and working on this, but in case I have any, you know, stuff that comes over this way and gets, you know, on top of these, I wanted to have these done. So we want to start shading on this ornament. And I'm going to shade, I'm going to mix a little bit, our base color is mistletoe. And so I'm going to mix a little bit of black in with it to get just a little bit of a darker green. And this will be our first shading. Kind of lost my shape here. So I'll see if I can shape that back up. Right there. We're going to go ahead and paint our little topper things on. And I'm going to make them gold toppers, I think. So we'll base them in with some antique gold. We'll just get them on for now. We won't add any, we won't bring them down onto the ornament itself until we get the ornament finished. You could make these silver. That would be okay too. Okay, we'll repeat that here in a minute. Excuse me. So if your shading is dry, we're going to mix that green and black again. Add a little bit more black this time, just to make it even darker than that first color was. And we'll repeat this. Mix a little bit more here. I need it to be a little bit more down here. I didn't bring it quite as far down as I needed to with that first one. You'd probably like to be on camera there, wouldn't you? I heard you yelling. Okay, let's go over and shade on this one while we are waiting for that one to dry. We're going to shade it with some antique gold. And going to shade mostly on this side and down here. Alright, let me dry this real quick. Get some burnt umber. And we're going to mix just a tiny little bit of burnt umber in with our antique gold. Black would make it turn green, so we don't want that. So just a little bit. Darken this up. I want to bring it over a little bit, so get it off. I don't want to transfer any color there. Alright, before we add any highlights here, because I want to deepen the shading one more time, but before we add any highlights on here, we are going to add some pretty little details on these ornaments. So let me find my pencil here. I just want to add some like swirls coming off of these ornaments. You know, like those ornaments you buy in the store and they've got just all this really pretty detailed stuff coming off of them. So just something like that. I'm going to draw it on this one with a pencil because I don't think that the white pencil will show up. And if you are transferring this pattern, use white graphite paper with this one and gray with this one. And try not to make it too dark when you're doing the gray. And just, you can, if you don't like the pattern that I've created, you can create your own pattern. So just kind of have fun with it. Okay, so for the green one, we're going to add the detail lines in with, let me check out my colors that I have here, see if I've got a green that will be dark enough to show up on here. We're gonna try forest green, I think. See if it's dark enough. So we're just gonna go over these lines. I'm using a liner brush. Stay up on the tip. Your paint needs to be thinned a little bit. So if it's not thinned, it's not going to flow off of your brush, and you're going to want to push down hard with your brush to get the paint to come off. So you've got to have it a little bit thin, not super thin. You can have it pretty close to inky consistency. Inky consistency is best mostly when you're using your liner brush. and break it up. Don't try to do it in, you know, one big motion. And then when it dries, we'll erase the graphite lines so we can kind of see that a little bit better. Now for our yellow one, we're going to do those with let's do them with antique gold. So thin down some antique gold with some water. So all I do is I pick up my brush, I put my brush in water and I bring it over here, I pull a little bit of paint out, and then I just mix the water in with the paint to get it thinner so that it will flow off of my brush just nicely. I don't want it too thin that it's going to fade away. I want the color that I put on here to be dark enough to stand on its own. And with this color, because I used pencil, I do want to try and get all that line covered up. I will come back and erase, but except for right there, I didn't like that line. So you can be as creative with your ornament as you want to be. You could put stars on it, you could stripes. I probably wouldn't do stripes. Stripes just would be too busy for this piece here. Okay, isn't that pretty? These are going to be gorgeous ornaments when we're done. This one's dry, so I'm going to go ahead and erase the graphite lines here. So there are a few products that I use in my videos, one of them being this table. This is an artist's easel. It spins. I make no money off of this. But I have a lot of people that ask. It adjusts for different heights. I like that it spins so I can spin my project and, you know, get to where I need to get to. It has a thing that locks down here to keep it from spinning. This comes from the Artist Club. Artist, A-R-T-I-S-T-S Club. And I think it's called the Artist Easel, but I just type in easel and then it brings it up down at the bottom of the page. Love it. I highly recommend getting one if you have any kind of neck or back issues. Really good product. And then these two things I get asked about a lot. I sell these on my website. This is my tri-eraser and this is Lonna's favorite chalk pencil. I love this pencil because the markings with it come off with water or paint, so you don't have to worry about it getting set in your project like you do when you use graphite paper. So, just a couple of things there. Alright, this is dry now. I'm going to see how much of the pencil I can erase. And then I may have to go back over a few lines that didn't quite get enough paint on them. lot of pencil line. My pencil lines were kind of dark. Not sure what that is there. So I'll have to go back over my lines to kind of cover that pencil line a little bit more. So when you're doing it for yourself, you can just erase your lines back before you start painting so that they're not so dark. I have them a little dark a lot of times so that you can see it better on camera. I don't really want to see any of that pencil. Take your time. Painting with a liner brush is another one of those learned things with painting. You really just have to practice, but staying up on the tip, keeping the brush straight up and down is key to using it to the best. Okay, let me put another quick coat on our little topper thing here. And I'm going to bring it down on the ornament now since I've got that. It's just kind of a jagged little edge there. I'm not going to put a lot of detail on the edge of it because I won't see it as well on this one. Add a little bit of brown in there. Let's see if we can get that to show up. Let's work on highlights now. On the gold ornament, we're going to use bright yellow. Highlight this edge. Kind of walk it in a little bit. On the green one, we're going to use olive green. On my brush here. Now I've got a pretty sheer wash of olive green here. Now I think I'm going to shade this side over here, so I'm going to pull this down a little bit down into there. And I'm going to get my shading mix here. And add it to the side. Clean my mop brush because I didn't get that olive green off. I don't want to transfer that down here. Now you see that olive green faded down in there quite a bit. So we'll definitely be repeating on both of these highlights here. Let me erase my lines around my thing there. I keep laying my arm in my water, getting it everywhere. Alright, I'm going to go back to my yellow here, my bright yellow. I'm going to mix a little bit of white in with it, just a tiny little dot of white. Bring it up here. Kind of walk it in. And give it a little mop. And we're going to repeat our green over here. Our olive green. Before I add white to it, I want to repeat this olive green a little bit. Brighten it up. Pull it down into the ornament. And I'm going to mop it. I'll mop in the paint because I want to remove a little bit of it. I know you're thinking, oh, we're covering up all of our lines. We won't be covering them up. Trust me. We got another step on those little lines that we're going to be doing. So I need to shade this side a little bit more. It needs to be just a little bit darker, so we're going to take our antique gold and burnt umber. Just a scooch. Mop it. Clean your mop brush. Let me get some more brightness on this yellow one here. So I'm going to take my bright yellow, dip into it once and white once, and maybe white a second time here. And I'm going to bring it in to the ornament. A little bit right there. Clean it off. Okay, I want to brighten this highlight on the green one just a little bit. I'm going to make this kind of sheer, so that means I'm adding water to keep my paint not as opaque as it normally would be. And I'm just going to pull this in into the ornament right there. Okay, take a damp brush and clean up a little bit right here. I don't want my shading to disappear there. I'll just repeat that shading just so I can get that a little bit better right there. I'm not really liking how that looks. just a scoochy scooch. And maybe just right through here. That's a little bit more. So, when I am pulling my floats, like I just did right there, let me get a piece of paper so I can show you. Okay, what I am doing is, so let's say this is the ornament edge. I am floating along this edge, okay, with my brush, right along here, okay. The water edge is laying water, so as it's laying water, I'm taking the paint and pulling it into that water. Then I'm making a V, like a V, and I'm just pulling that paint out into a V like this, and then I'm taking my mop brush and mopping it to soften it. And that's how I walk my paint into my projects, like that. Okay, let's add a final little highlight on here with white. And I'll put a little bit of white here. I'll mop that a little bit. Okay, let's finish up our topper. I'm going to go to a little brush here, and we're going to shade on them with some burnt umber. I'm just going to shade on the lower edges of them, or the shaded edge, I guess I should say, which this one would be on the left side. Oops. And this one would be on this side. Need a little bit of water. A little bit more paint. Okay, now if you, I haven't highlighted yet, but if you want to add the little wire thing that comes out of them, I think every little bit of detail that you add makes things look more realistic. So we'll do that with our liner and our antique gold. Repeat that. Okay, I'm gonna have to add some shading and highlighting on that little topper thing, that thing we just painted in. So I need to make sure they're dry so I can erase the line around them. Okay, so now you can do this with your liner brush. If you think you can do it with your angle brush, then go for it. Just going to put a little bit on the shaded edge of that. Okay, now we're going to highlight with, let's highlight first with some bright yellow. Just on that light edge there. Okay, then we're going to highlight again with Snow White. We'll probably darken our shading there a little bit. Just on the very edge. And I'm going to go over the shading one more time with the burnt umber. Okay, I see I need a little bit of, well, actually, let me put a little highlight on there. Get some water on my brush here. I'm going to go with the white and yellow mix. A little bit right there, kind of a reflective light. I want to do the same on the green one. Just a little bit. I'll make it more green. It's got too much white in it, so let me go into my olive green. And just add some olive like that. Needs just a scooch more white here, I think. This is just a small little highlight. It's not got a whole lot going on with it. A little bit more yellow down in here. I'm using a very big brush. I should probably go to a smaller one, but and then our white back in here. My yellow kind of washed down in there, and I wasn't really liking that, so I'll just put it back on. And then this is just white. I feel like I lost my shape here. Okay, let me try mixing some olive green with the base color. And that will probably be a little bit better. Or not. Not liking that. I just feel like it's way too. Just erase that. Just would be easier if I took it off. And try that again. So I'm going to take the base color, I think, and a little bit of white and see if that will make a good reflective light. There we go. That looks much better. That was our base color, a festive green with a little bit of white in it. Reshape this. Okay, that looks so much better. I'm going to have to shade, I think, behind here. I think it needs a little bit. So I'm going to clean up that edge behind the, which was cranberry wine with a little bit of black. That might be just a scooch too much black. Sets those down in there a little bit more. Alright, one more little shading here, and then we're going to add our fun stuff on here. This edge needs just a scooch more. And I really feel like this highlight needs to come out more. So this is where you can figure out what yours needs. Step back and look at it. Okay, that looks much better. Okay, let's finish off these ornaments here. The topper, we're going to apply a coat of, let me find it. Here we go. Metallic Emperor's Gold. So we're just gonna thin this down a little bit with some water so I can make it a little bit more transparent. I really don't want my shading and highlight to go away. Okay, and if you want it a little bit brighter than that, I just want a little sparkle on it. Now, the Glamour Dust ice crystal that we put on our ribbon, we're going to put on our ornaments. This, again, is optional. You do not have to do this if you do not want to. But we're going to line all of our lines. I think I just transferred my gold to touch up my black. Using our round brush, or not a round brush, our liner brush. Staying up on the tip. And it's okay if you miss a line here or there. Don't worry about it. I might just be creating a few that aren't on here. Okay. Alright, go ahead and do this one. This one I can definitely see the line, so I won't have any problems here. And when it dries, I'll decide if I want to come back and repeat this or not. Generally with Glamour Dust, I like to have at least 2 coats on here. So, and another way that you could do this, you could give it more dimension, is to get a fine tip little glue bottle. Well, I got that gold paint all over me. Get a fine tip glue bottle and outline it, or do your lines with the tip of the glue bottle, and then take some glitter. I would maybe do that after you have varnished it so the glitter won't stick everywhere else. And then put some really sparkly glitter on here. You could put gold glitter. Ooh, that's so pretty. So pretty. Alright, I'm going to have to touch up down here on the black because I have gold all over my hands everywhere, so I'm going to have to take a minute here and go wash my hands. I'm just a wild woman with that gold. Okay, and that's going to give my Glamour Dust time to dry, and then I can repeat it. Okay, I've drawn a few more lines in here. I don't know if I'll use them all. I just went ahead and drew a few more in there. So first we want to make some stems for our stuff to grow on. So we're going to take our burnt umber and get a little bit of white. Like all my bottles of paint are wanting to leak on me here. Okay, I'm going to mix a little bit of white in with the burnt umber. Not a lot, because it will make it kind of gray. And we're just going to find a stem that we want and put a little ball thing on the end of it. Okay, so I'm only going to do a few of these and show you how to do them. This is burnt umber with just a tiny bit of white in it. And then I'll go off camera and do the rest of them. Okay. So we're still going to keep using our liner brush here. So we're going to thin down some forest green is my first color. We're going to thin it down to inky consistency. Make sure you don't have any water on your ferrule because you don't want that running down. And we're just going to start pulling some strokes off of that stem that we created there. You can either go over your ribbon or under your ribbon. I am choosing to go under with this particular one. Okay, so you'll go down one side. If your paint starts feeling too thick or not coming off your brush well, add some more water to it. Just pull some strokes. Remember, when you're using your liner brush, you're on the tip, you're straight up and down. Okay, I'm going to go over here and work on, well, I'll work on this one because let that dry a little bit, because that one's going to kind of overlap it. Okay, so there's a good start to a couple of them. I'll go ahead and do this one now. I'm going to pull some of these up onto my ribbon. And then on this side I'll come behind. And then this one will overlap that other one. Okay, so that is just the base of our pine needles. Now this one probably comes back in here some, so I'm just going to stroke some green in there. Okay? So I'm going to wash my brush off. Next color I'm going to go into is, what do I have here? Green, what is it? Teal green. Teal green. So we'll put this color on next, and you'll use less of each color. We will have 3 layers here. You won't cover up all of your first color. So the first color will actually take the longest, because you have to, be a little bit more, getting it coming off of that stem good. A little bit back in there. Just keep on going here. Okay, then our last color will be olive green. So each color you will thin down to inky consistency, and you'll just go through and do all of your pine needles at the same time. We'll do even less of this color. Just a few strokes in there. The olive green will fade back down in there. I know when you put it on it looks like, whoa, that's bright, but it will fade back down in there. So we're going to take our brown, our burnt umber, with our little bit of white in it there, and we're going to clean up our stem. And redo the little ball on the tip. I'm going to get a little bit more white in there, and then put that on the tip. So that is our pine needles, and that's all there is to those. So I'm going to go finish up all of mine, and then we'll come back and add the next step. Alright. I was going to put holly leaves on here, but decided that was going to be a little bit too busy, I think. So we're just going to do some berries on here. So I want my berries to start out orange. So I've got Tangelo orange here and Moon yellow. Tangelo orange is a little bit transparent, so we are going to mix it with some Moon yellow and just make kind of a orangey peach color there. And that's what we're going to base coat. That'll be the first coat of paint on here. And then the rest of them, we will, after this initial coat, we will put just straight Tangelo orange on here. So you can add as many as I have, or you can add a few, or you cannot add any at all. It is completely up to you. It is, after all, your piece. I want you to be happy with it. I love to put berries. I love to put holly leaves too, but I just really felt like it was going to be too much. So just put them on here randomly. Different sizes. Some a little bit bigger, some a little bit smaller. And it will go pretty quick. Just use a round brush and put them in. Got one that's kind of on right there. I think I'll put one here instead of there. Let's see how that's going to look. I think one needs to be here. I really like to have a lot of berries, especially around the center, to really draw your eye in there. Okay, and then you can take a look at it and see if you want to add some more in some other places. Like I feel like we need one here. Maybe a third one here. We'll just make this a grouping of 3 right here. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. So our second coat, these are all going to be pretty dry, so our second coat is going to be just straight Tangelo orange. Okay, then we're going to come back and add color on top of that. Okay, all of my berries are base coated in with some orange. One of the things, I want to add a few streaks in the pine needles because I want to carry some of this yellow over here. So we're going to take our either bright yellow or cad yellow. Let's see, have we used cad yellow on this project? And get my bright yellow out, because I do not remember if I have used cad yellow yet. I was going to, but I'm not sure that I did. I prefer the cad yellow because it's a little more muted. The bright yellow won't show up because it's too transparent, so we'll go into the cad yellow and just put a few streaks. Just random here and there. I don't know how well the yellow will show up. It's very close to the green color, olive green. Okay, and then take a few of the orange, the Tangelo orange that you just put on your berries. I think yeah, just a few of these. just like you did the yellow, just a couple of random places. It will fade back down in there because it's kind of a transparent color too. Alright, we're going to work on the little berries now, and this will probably be the most tedious thing of the whole project. So we're going to take some cranberry wine, side load a small flat, a small curved brush, a small angle brush, and let me erase some of my graphite lines that I didn't cover up. You're going to float this color on one side of your berries. If you are painting a much smaller project than I'm painting, because this is 11 by 14 and your berries are so small and you're thinking, how am I going to float them? Well, don't float them. Just dampen it and take a round brush and just place some cranberry wine on your berry. But this can take a little time, so just relax and enjoy the process. Don't ever want painting to be stressful or tedious. See one I forgot to erase there. Just mix it up here and pick a side and don't make them all the same. I just like the look of my berries when I base them in with orange. I just think they look more like berries to me. I will go back and repeat this because there's going to be a few, especially when I first started out, that aren't very dark. Oops. Paint too far over on my brush. Wash it out. You've got just a little bit of water in your paint to make that paint move. We're using almost straight paint here. Okay, so that was just the first float on there. I am going to repeat that with the same color, the cranberry wine, because I want to make sure it is a deep, rich color on there. So I'm going to start down here so maybe I can keep track of where I've been. When you do it the first time, it's pretty easy because you can see the ones that haven't been done. The second time gets a little bit tricky. You have to pick up paint a lot with small brushes because they just don't carry it very far. When I pick up paint, I always touch my palette paper, the very tip where I picked up the paint, to remove any really super thick paint that might be on it. So when I go to paint, I'm not leaving a big old blob of paint somewhere. Okay, 2 coats on there. That looks pretty good. Okay, we're going to highlight with some cad yellow. Opposite side that you put your shading on. Time to wash my brush out. It's getting a little far over. I've done a lot of berries, so I don't stress out about them. But again, if you're painting your small, just put a little bit of water on there and then just kind of stroke some cad yellow on there. You might have to repeat. Okay, those look pretty good. Alright, on these berries, let's make a random little, paint's not wet here, random little highlight of Snow White, and you don't have to do it on all of them, just pick a few. And add a dot. Okay, little dots on there. That's all you got to do. Okay. When you need to now shade, let's get some forest green and lamp black. And we're just going to brush mix, make a dark green, like a black green. So, we're going to shade like this ribbon is on top of these pine needles. So we're going to shade along the bottom edge of that ribbon. We'll shade inside here. This is going to push all this stuff back. And bring that ribbon more forward, this edge here. Okay, out here on this edge. Just go on where the pine needles are. This one comes up over the ribbon a little bit, so I'm not going to do it. Over here and do this. We're just working kind of on the pine needles for now. We'll come back and do our berries here. Just brush mixing, so don't stress out here. Just get a nice mix that you like. Come around here. here a little bit. Alright. Okay, now we want to go, oh, let's see. So, like this limb lays over this one. So I am just going to kind of stroke in some of this dark color, and it lays on top of this one as well. So just give that a little bit of a shadow look there. Try and bring one forward. So if you've got one laying on top of another, you got to kind of decide which one is more behind. And create a little shadow on it. So in here, I put that one on top, so I'm going to shade here. And then this one's on top, so I'm going to darken that right in there. So, and you're probably thinking, I can't even see what she just did, but it's there. It's there. It will, in the final outcome, it will show up. Alright, let's go around some of these berries. Put more water. So we're going to add a little shading around our berries. Because they are laying on top of the pine. Just brush mix. When you pick up water, you gotta work that into your brush too, don't forget. You'll probably add just a little bit more black when you're doing this because of the pine needles. You don't want your shading to kind of fade into the pine needles. Okay, and if you feel like you need to go back and repeat, then we're just going to go back with some straight black. And repeat. This is just a really small float. I'm using a very large brush here, but you can go to a much smaller brush. Now we're seeing those berries really pop forward, aren't we? Those look pretty good. I'm going to wide angle out so you can kind of see it all together. We're not done yet, but that's looking pretty good. See our blingy bling? Very nice. Very nice. Alright, we're going to work on making a reflection down here. and you can do it or not do it. It's completely up to you. So because our red up here we undercoated with gray, it's not going to be undercoated with gray down here. So we're just going to kind of streak some of this in through here. And kind of let it fade away. That's our red. Now for our green over here, we had some mistletoe. And all I did was I took my pattern and flipped it over and traced some of the areas on here so I would kind of have an idea of where I was going. And I'm going to add a little tiny bit of black in here with my green. Here. And then our yellow was moon yellow. And it's out of my bottle here. I might add a tiny bit of burnt umber to it to kind of tone it down just a little, because if we add black to it, it's going to turn the yellow, it's going to turn it green. So we don't want to do that. So we just need muted soft colors here, so I'll wipe some of my paint out. Keep your shape there. That doesn't look very yellow, so I think I'm going to go with some cad yellow because that looks way too opaque. And I need it to be a little bit more of a sheer color. The same with my green. I think I might switch it over to some olive green. I'm just going to remove some of that yellow on there. And I can just paint back over it with my black, so it's no big deal. So I'm going to go with the more transparent colors here. So we got our yellow. That will make our reflection appear more bright. So with the green, I'm going to go with some olive green. Brighten this up. Ooh, baby. And with our red, we can go with some cherry red. I have to do maybe do the yellow again. Alright, let me find my cherry red. Because we want our reflections to be bright, but we don't want them to be super bright. You know, you want to be able to tell that they're reflections. So a little bit of cherry red in here. And just kind of let it fade away. Okay, I'm going to let those dry, and I'm going to definitely redo the yellow one. Okay, for our blue, let's throw a little bit of green in here first. Over here, I'm going to use the teal green because it is a very bright green, sort of. See how it'll look. So I'll just put some of this right down through here. I'm just going to kind of stay up on the tip of my brush here. Got it a little bit too watery, so let me get a little bit more. You want your colors to be more muted. So right through here, there's going to be a lot of that, so I'm going to take some of that olive green and a little bit of mistletoe, kind of mix them together. Kind of. Okay, let's go with our blue on our ribbon here. And I might use the turquoise blue for that reflection because it's a little bit brighter. I don't know if the other blue will show up. Let me put them both out here. Which was our... I think I'll just mix them together. Victorian blue and turquoise blue, and just make a nice mix of color here. And we've got some... I need to put some green paint over here. We've got this going on here. And right through here. And up through here. And we've got some over here. That's the reflection of that right there. A little bit of stuff going on here. And then I want to bring a little bit of this reflection over here. So I need to put some green stuff in here. Just muted colors. So let's see, they'll be going actually this way. Blue color. And we've got a few little tiny berries in there, so we'll add a little bit of Tangelo orange, but I want to come in and do a little bit brighter on my blue. So I'm going to do just turquoise blue. A little bit more yellow here. Let's do a little muted berries. don't know if I'm putting these in the right place, but we'll just kind of go with it. They'll have to be a little tiny bit brighter. Okay, I'm going to get this dry, and then we're going to do one more thing here to it. Okay, I forgot to have my recorder on. So I just did the colors that I did up here. Well, sort of. I did a wash of olive green here, cad yellow here, and then this one I mixed ultramarine blue and turquoise blue. I had to do it 2 or 3 times because the background is so dark. And then with up here, I just did some light colors of the mistletoe. I used mistletoe and forest green and some turquoise blue in here to just kind of get some muted. I think I need to add a little bit of cad yellow in here because there are some bright places. In my berries, I just did a mix of Tangelo orange and what did I use? Cad red, country red. And then just put a little dot of cad yellow, which you can't really see, so I'll just brighten up the dots on here just a little bit. So you're just mirroring what's up here, down here. Okay? And I know I don't have near as many berries down here and all that stuff, but we're just seeing part of the reflection here. Let's see if I can erase my lines here, because all I did was flip my pattern over and kind of very lightly trace my numbers. And then when I did my lines here, I took the color that I used, the olive green and the cad yellow, and I mixed it with some glamour dust so you could get a little sparkle down there. So I'm going to add a little bit of that on here. Find it. Just a little bit of our sparkle reflecting down in here. So just a little bit, we don't have to. And then I used my just my Emperor's Gold, my metallic paint, on just that reflection of the ornaments topper. The topper on this one will be behind this, so you won't see the reflection of that on there. So we've got a little bit of sparkle reflection on there, and we can come back and add a little bit more. I think I will definitely add a little bit more of that sparkle reflection down here. And you can, I did not transfer my pattern on for this scroll work, but if you want it to look exactly like that one up there, I know this one doesn't, but then you can transfer the pattern on here for this. Just bling it up just a little bit, because that's very sparkly, so it's going to have quite a bit of reflection. Come back here in just a minute. We're going to let this dry. So we've got some of our sparkle down there in the ornament reflection. I'm going to put a little bit more on our ribbon. All you're doing, I think I've tried to say this 3 or 4 times, all you're doing is reversing the pattern. You're using muted colors of whatever you used above. So you won't have a lot of detail, so don't get carried away with the detail, because it's just a reflection. Okay? Right here, I think I'm going to put a little tiny bit of black to separate those candles just a little bit. So, kind of tell where they're at up there. Okay, that's looking pretty good. I like that. We're going to do one more step here. Okay, my last step is to just float a little bit of black around. I'm going to clean up my edge here. So you want to take your black and clean up any edges that you need to clean up. Anything that you don't like, you can cover with your black. Actually, that needs to go the other way. The black on the wrong side there. This needs a little bit of black right there. So I floated some black right there to kind of separate that. I want to do the same here. I want to kind of put a little bit of separation in here. Make it look more like a reflection. So I am just kind of skimming some black where I put my shadow thing. That yellow right there, not very happy with how that looks right there. Okay, that looks a little bit better. Okay, and I guess I could put a little bit of black separate these a little bit. Don't really have to because they're not separated too much up there, so just wherever you feel like you need a little bit of separation. I didn't like that one, so I'm erasing it. I want to add a little bit of blue up here in my flame. I feel like I need to bring some blue up in here, so I've got ultramarine blue because it's a pretty sheer color. I'm going to add a tiny little bit of turquoise blue and bring some of that blue up in there, just at the very base there. I really don't know. I probably should have Googled what flames look like, to where I know they've probably got blue in them. I just don't know where the blue is. I'm thinking the blue is probably more at the top because it's a cooler color. It's away from the flame a little bit, or it's away from the heat part. So I want to put a little bit of this blue in our candle. And you can put it anywhere you want, just wherever appeals to you. I'm just going to hit some random places with some blue in there. This is ultramarine blue with a tiny bit of turquoise blue. It's a very sheer color. Lots of water in my brush so I don't just play around with it. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now, like I said, the reflection thing, that is definitely going to be a personal preference, because if you don't want to do it, you absolutely do not have to do it. And then just go in with any of your flat brushes. Let's do something about our line back here. And I think this needs to be just a scoot shorter. And clean up any areas where you feel like you got your shape not quite right or got out into your background where you don't want it to be. And just give it some nice edges. Okay, back here on our background back here, let's add, I'm going to get my gray sky out. It's going to be way too bright. Find a clean place on my palette here. Get a little bit of black. Where is my black? Oh, it's over here. So I can make a dark gray. Just brush mix. I'm going to use a 1/2 inch flat brush. I want plenty of water on my brush. Really work that paint in. And then we'll just take it just very lightly across here. Create like a ledge, a table. Down a little farther than what I want. I guess I'll take my black and clean that up. I'm not really liking that back there, so I think I'll take that off. Some yellow there. Oops, don't want it on there. So I'll just go over it with some black. I might take a couple of coats because I've got my black kind of thinned down. And I think I'll reverse that, maybe. No, don't like that here. So I'm going to have to go with a completely different color here. So I'm just going to clean this off. See, this is my thought process. You're seeing it in all its glory. I mean, you know, other designers out there don't want to give you a video unless it's perfect, but I want you to see I want you to see my mistakes. I mean, you're going to learn from them just as much as I'm going to learn from them. So I'm going to take my ultramarine blue. I don't even know if this will show up. And kind of try to get a straight line. I have no idea if my line is straight anymore, since I erased it. Doesn't look like it. Now ultramarine blue is not going to show up very much because it's a pretty transparent color. A little bit. I added a tiny little bit of turquoise blue on the edge of my brush there. My paint palette is so completely full of paint. I can't pick up, can't blend anywhere. Can't find a spot to blend. Okay, I'm going to have to work on that just a little bit, but I like that much better. I might glaze over it with a little bit of black once it's dry. So there we go. I think we have this project done. I love how it turned out, except for this bright little area back here. So I'm going to do that. I need to touch up my background back here a little bit. I got some scratches and some water drops on it, so just glaze some black over it. When you varnish it, all of that will fade away. So, alright. I think we're going to call this a finished project. Thank you so much for painting with me. See, we've got some sparkle down there in our reflection. Excellent, excellent. Okay, thanks for painting with me. I'll see you guys on the next one. Okay, a couple of things I did to finish this. Was I washed a little bit of lamp black across here because it was too bright, and just muted these down a little bit. Took a little bit of white and created a highlight in the table. And so now I'm just adding a little bit of the shine back on this ornament. Has a reflective light there, not too much. And then we can do the same with the green one, just a tiny, tiny, tiny bit up here, but not too much. Okay, a couple of things I did to finish this. Was I washed a little bit of lamp black across here because it was too bright, and just muted these down a little bit. Took a little bit of white and created a highlight in the table. And so now I'm just adding a little bit of the shine back on this ornament. Has a reflective light there, not too much. And then we can do the same with the green one, just a tiny, tiny, tiny bit up here, but not too much. That's even more than I want to do, so I don't like that, so I'm just going to take that down. I'm going to take a little side float of black. This is what I used. This is how I did it. I just streaked it across here. Tried not to get into my original design. And I've got just a tiny little bit of black on my brush here. And so I'm going to come back in with just a couple of brighter little highlights here in my reflection. Tiny bit of white. So now it looks like there's a reflection and a shadow, and not just a duplicate that didn't get painted very well. So this now is the finished piece. Let me zoom in just a little bit so you can see it. And there we go. That took down some of our sparkle in the background when I washed over it with black, but we still got enough in there that we can see that it's a reflective sparkle, and that's all that you really need. Okay, thank you again for painting with me. I'll see you guys on the next one.